In the late 1960s, America was shocked by the horrific crimes of a cult whose leader was none other than Charles Manson, one of the most notorious criminals in modern history. But what made a person like Manson capable of manipulating and controlling an entire group of people to commit such brutal acts? In this video, we will delve into the mind of Charles Manson, analyzing his psychology, crimes, and the relationships between him and the members of his cult. This is not just the story of a serial killer, but also a lesson on the dangers of being drawn into the enchantment and manipulation of a psychopath. Join us as we explore the tragic life of Charles Manson, from his troubled childhood to the dark days of founding the Manson family cult. We will uncover the complex layers of his psychology, the motives behind the murders, and Manson's impact on those around him. Stay tuned, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button to ensure you don't miss any of our other exciting and fascinating videos from our channel. Charles Manson was born on November 12, 1934, in Cincinnati, Ohio. From a young age, Manson's life was marked by misfortune and violence. His mother, a young alcoholic woman, was often absent and neglected her child. Manson had to live with relatives and experienced an unstable and loveless childhood. From his teenage years, Manson began committing crimes ranging from theft to violent behavior. He was frequently arrested and confined in juvenile detention centers. These arrests only fueled Manson's resentment and hatred, turning him into an even more dangerous criminal. Throughout the 1950s and 1960s, Manson was in and out of prison. Each time he was released, he became more dangerous and cunning. Manson learned how to manipulate others and developed the ability to attract vulnerable and impressionable people, especially young women. Charles Manson's criminal life reached its peak when he began attracting and gathering a group of followers, later known as the Manson family. These individuals, captivated by Manson's charisma and ideology, were willing to do anything he asked, including committing horrific crimes. Let's delve into how Manson attracted and controlled the members of his cult, as well as the bizarre activities and crimes they committed right after this. In the late 1960s, Charles Manson, with his charismatic speech and psychological manipulation skills, attracted a group of disillusioned young people, mostly young women, forming the Manson family cult. Spahn Ranch, an abandoned ranch in California, became their refuge and base of operations. At Spahn Ranch, the cult members lived together like one big family. They cut off all ties with the outside world and became completely dependent on Manson. He created an environment where everyone had absolute trust in him through his sermons and bizarre rituals. Manson used music as an important tool to bond and control the members. He claimed to be the embodiment of Christ and that he had a mission to lead humanity through a racial war he called Helter Skelter. Manson believed that after this war, he and the cult members would hold supreme power. They lived a self-sufficient life, farming, tending to animals, and engaging in spiritual activities directed by Manson. Under Manson's leadership, the cult became increasingly extreme and violent. The cult members began to engage in bizarre actions, such as shaving their heads and drawing cross symbols on their foreheads to demonstrate their absolute commitment to Manson and his philosophy. They believed they were preparing for an inevitable war. But then, from these extreme beliefs, the Manson family cult took a terrifying step further. They began committing horrific murders under Manson's orders. The brutal killings were meant to incite chaos and fear, further cementing their loyalty to Manson and his apocalyptic vision. On the night of August 8, 1969, the Manson family cult committed one of the most horrific crimes in United States history. Under the orders of Charles Manson, the cult members infiltrated the house at 10,050 Cielo Drive, where pregnant actress Sharon Tate was residing with 3 of her friends. Under the leadership of Charles Tex Watson, members Susan Atkins, Patricia Krenwinkel, and Linda Kasabian brutally murdered Sharon Tate, Jay Sebring, Abigail Folger, and Wojciech Frykowski. This crime shocked the world due to its level of brutality and savagery. Immediately after, on the night of August 9, 1969, the cult members committed another murder at the home of Lino and Rosemary LaBianca. Both crimes bore the distinctive marks of the cruelty and chaos that Manson had instilled in the minds of his followers. These crimes were committed with the aim of creating chaos and inciting a racial war that Manson believed would elevate him and his cult to power. The blood-written messages on the crime scenes, such as pigs and helter-skelter, reflected Manson's twisted philosophy. Just a few months later, the police tracked down and arrested the cult members along with Manson. The testimonies of the members and the collected evidence revealed the horrifying truth about the crimes that Manson had orchestrated. The subsequent trials attracted the attention of the entire nation, with gruesome details about how Manson manipulated and controlled his followers to commit atrocious acts. Let's delve deeper into the psychology of Charles Manson and how he turned these young people into instruments for his deranged purposes. Charles Manson was not just a murderer, but also a master of psychological manipulation. To understand him better, we need to examine his prominent psychological traits. Manson is believed to have suffered from multiple mental disorders, including antisocial personality disorder. People with this disorder often lack empathy, have difficulty feeling remorse, and easily violate social norms. This explains why Manson never felt guilty or remorseful for his actions. Manson was also extremely adept at manipulating others. He knew how to use music, words, and personal charisma to captivate and control the members of his cult. Manson constructed an image of himself as a person with special powers, someone whom the members had to worship and follow unconditionally. He created an environment where the members felt they belonged to something grand and special. They believed they were preparing for a racial war, which Manson called helter-skelter. This made them willing to do anything Manson asked, including committing murder. In the trials, many cult members testified that they were completely manipulated by Manson. Their psychological dependence on Manson was so strong that they absolutely believed every word he said and were willing to commit horrific crimes at his command. Charles Manson is a prime example of how an individual can use psychological manipulation to control and lure others into committing atrocious acts. He turned vulnerable young people into instruments for his deranged purposes. Charles Manson was not only the leader of the cult, but also the central figure in all relationships within the Manson family. He created a complex web of psychological dependence between himself and the members, turning them into completely loyal instruments. Manson used his charisma and persuasive abilities to attract young, lost, and vulnerable individuals. He promised them a new life, a family where they would be loved and accepted. To many members, Manson was a father, a teacher, and a savior. The cult members lived together, worked together, and shared everything with each other. They completely cut off ties with the outside world and knew only Manson and his philosophy. This dependence was not only physical but also spiritual. Manson maintained his power through rituals and symbolic actions, such as shaving heads and drawing crosses on foreheads. These actions not only reinforced the members' loyalty, but also created a barrier between them and the outside society, making them even more closely bonded to Manson. In the trials, many cult members testified that they saw Manson as a god and that they were willing to do anything he asked without question. Manson's psychological control was so strong that the members could not separate themselves from him, even when faced with the law. After being arrested, Charles Manson and his cult members faced legal punishment. The trials were intense and drew the attention of the entire nation and the world. Charles Manson, along with his most loyal followers, was sentenced to life imprisonment. Even in prison, Manson continued to influence many through interviews and media appearances. He became a symbol of evil and psychological manipulation. The impact of Charles Manson extends beyond the horrific crimes he committed. It also includes a deeper understanding of criminal psychology and the dangers of extreme cults. Manson's story has become a cautionary tale about the peril of allowing oneself to be manipulated and drawn into extremist ideologies. Although the cult members were held accountable by the law, the psychological and social scars they left behind still persist. Manson's story is a warning about the destructive power of psychological manipulation and the dangers of following extreme beliefs. Charles Manson, from a petty criminal, became a symbol of evil and psychological manipulation. Through Manson's story, we not only witness the brutality of horrific crimes, but also gain a deeper understanding of how one individual can manipulate and control the minds of others. Psychological analyses of Manson have helped us better understand mental disorders and how they can influence human behavior. His story is a valuable lesson about the dangers of cults and the importance of protecting the ignorant and vulnerable from manipulation. Although Charles Manson has been dead for 7 years, his story continues to live on, reminding us of the brutality of evil and the importance of vigilance. Remember, no one should allow themselves to be drawn into extreme ideologies and empty promises. Thank you for watching this video. If you found it useful and interesting, please hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any upcoming content. Leave a comment below and share your thoughts on the story of Charles Manson. See you in the next videos.